Hello, my name is Max Richardson. I'm 20 years old, and I want to be a PE teacher because the educational system is something that I grew up around my whole life. Both my parents are teachers, and my dad especially is a PE teacher. And seeing that environment, the PE environment, from a student myself, and then from the perspective of a teacher with my dad, it made me realize how valuable physical education is. Because as a student, you're going classroom to classroom, math, ELA, social studies, and you're just walking from classroom to classroom. You're sitting down, you're doing work, and when you go home, you have a bunch of homework. And then after that, if you're not doing one of your own hobbies like video games or whatever, you're going to sleep because you're tired. But PE is a place where you get to let loose, um, release some of that energy, meet people. It's a really good social environment. Playing sports is a way that I've made a lot of friends growing up, and made me realize just how important exercise is for your mental health and for your physical health. Just being able to go out there and let loose. Um, But important thing is to ensure that safe environment. And I think a good way to make a safe and inclusive environment is to establish boundaries, to make sure that no one gets hurt by making the rules really, set in stone, right? So let's say we're playing soccer. I would have a no slide tackling rule. If we're playing dodgeball, there would be a no shots to the head rule. Field hockey or basketball, you can't just run over people. We're going to make it as safe as we can. And, playing sports sometimes that gets murky. You have high adrenaline moments where kids are going full speed because they want to win, or they might do some tactics that are shaky because they want to win. And for that, I'll give some grace, I'll give some leeway. You do it one time, okay, you get a warning. If you do it again, just for the safety of the other student, you'd have to be removed from the setting, because safety is the biggest thing, right? And to motivate reluctant students that might feel like they're not good enough for a sport or for physical education, I think a good way to do that is to split the class up into groups based on what they believe to be their ability, right? So let's say we're playing volleyball, and I have a bunch of kids in my class are on the volleyball team. And then I have some other kids in my class that are on the basketball team or the baseball team, so they're good athletes. And then I have some kids in my class that don't play any sports. What I would do is I would have the volleyball kids on their own side of the gym playing volleyball. It can get competitive, it can get high skill. Some of the other athletes, basketball, baseball, they can be in the moderate section because they're good athletes. The basketball kid might be a good leaper, the baseball kid might have some good accuracy, but they don't really play the sport like that, so it's not going to look that amazing. But it's good enough to where they can play and have a competitive game. And then I would have the beginner section, kids who don't play sports like that, I don't feel confident in their abilities. They can still play, get some competitive nature in there, and still get exercise in, and don't feel like they need to worry about feeling targeted by the kids who are better, in a social sense or even in a physical sense. And I would let the kids choose what they think their level is, so it doesn't feel like I'm picking on them. I would let the kids choose, and obviously, if it's like a really good player tries to play with the beginners, I would fix that. But otherwise, I would let them choose, so it doesn't feel like I'm picking on them. And to solve a situation between students, I think it's important to, no matter what the situation is, to sit both students down or how many students involved and let them tell their side of the story, right? Would there be a fight or an insult or anything? Sit them down and say, okay, why did this happen? John, why did you say this to Jimmy? Vanessa, why did you hit Sasha? Why'd you do this, right? And let both sides explain, because it's important to let kids verbalize what they did instead of just punishing them. And now they think they got did wrong, and now they're angry, they're not learning anything. But to verbalize it, they're saying, okay, they say what they did, and maybe in their mind they realize, I shouldn't have done that. Now that I say it out loud, that's pretty stupid. And then you can discipline them accordingly instead of just immediately disciplining them. It's good to have students verbalize what they did and explain both sides, so even they can realize what they did. And to accommodate students with disabilities or an injury, I think it's just important to let them feel like we're not singling them out, or that we're not keeping them involved, or they're not a burden on the class, right? So let's say we have a kid with asthma. Let's say we have a kid with asthma. He has really bad asthma. So let's say in the basketball unit, instead of we're going full court, we can play knockout, or just have like a shooting competition, something where the kid doesn't have to run full speed, so he's still getting a workout in. There's still some competitive nature in the shooting, but he's just shooting. He doesn't have to play defense, or we have a kid with cerebral palsy and we're playing basketball. Maybe when we're shooting, we can bring in a hoop that we have to lower, or we can use a ball ramp. We can put a hoop over the rim, those bigger hoops, and give him a smaller foam ball if it's really severe. It's to still get him a physical workout in. I think it's important to let these kids know that they're still appreciated and they're still involved. In an injury, right? Or let's say a kid, maybe has bad knees or something, and we're playing soccer. He doesn't want to run. he can be the goalie, and so he can still get some physical stuff in, but he doesn't have to put stress on those injuries. Um, and to handle a parent that doesn't believe that physical education is important, honestly, all you need is just to bring up the data. There's a bunch of data out there that suggests otherwise, that suggests that PE or just exercise in general is extremely important to a kid's mental health and physical health. That working out, what it does for you, what it does for your mind. So I think all I really have to do is just pull up a bunch of articles from proven scientists. And I think it's been proven for years how important exercise is, especially in a setting like school where you're not exercising a lot. You're sitting in a chair on and off for 8 hours. You're not moving. And how important it is to sometimes just get up and stretch your legs. Even if that's to take a walk, to take a jog, to do some jumping jacks, to play a sport. Like I said earlier, I made a lot of friends through sports. That there's a bonding thing that comes with playing sports. Or exercising or whatever. That social setting. A lot of classes you can't talk. You're just listening to the teacher talking. You're doing worksheets in PE. If you're playing a sport, you have to talk, no matter what it is. You have to communicate. So that's how you make friends. That's how you gain a sense of maturity and competitiveness. You learn how to lose. A lot of times there's always a loser in sports. You learn how to lose and you learn how to cope with that and move on. You learn how to win with decency, not to brag. You learn a lot of things just by playing sports and by exercising. You take care of your body. A lot of these kids don't get the chance to take care of their body because it's school, homework, sleep, repeat. And PE gives them a chance to work out and take care of themselves mentally and physically. So if I had a parent like that, I would just clearly explain to them, give them data that backs up everything I say because it's out there. They would honestly just have to Google. That gets me to my goal. As a PE teacher, I just want the students to try their best, whatever the physical level is. If you're a star athlete, I want you to go out there, show everybody you're a star athlete. If you're just starting to play sports, try your best. I want the students to go out there and leave more confident in themselves than they did when they entered in. When the kid comes in and he feels really down on himself and he doesn't feel like he's an adequate physical specimen or whatever, I want him to leave saying, okay, I have some stuff I can work on and I got to work on that. Maybe I start taking a walk every day. Maybe I do some jumping jacks when I wake up, some push-ups before I go to sleep, something. Feel more confident in themselves and know that everybody is at different physical levels, and that's okay. So I want the kids to leave with a sense of, I tried my best, and I'm going to keep trying my best. I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep trying to get better, because all that, when it comes to skill production, that doesn't matter a whole lot in PE class. What matters is that your effort. So I just want kids to leave saying, I tried the best, and I'm going to get better at what I do.